in all of football. And not to mention, he hosted Saturday Night Live and starred in movies and rose up an entire city after Hurricane Harvey. As far as what he's got going forward, Molly, not as much as he used to, but I have visions of Dwight Freeney in an Atlanta Falcons jersey still hitting that spin move, being like a Mariano Rivera closer as a pass rusher. And if I was talking to J.J. Watt, I would say, dude, go play with your brothers in Pittsburgh. Take pennies on the dollar. It is worth way much more money in life experience. Go play with Pittsburgh. They're always looking for pass rushers in the AFC. Get out of Houston and go to the Steel City.
You know, people forget now. I'm glad you brought it up about J.J. Watt. Before Aaron Donald held the position he has in the NFL right now as maybe greatest front seven player we've ever seen. Like, in my opinion, it's Lawrence Taylor. But, you know, Ray Lewis or Reggie White or Bruce Smith, these are all guys to me, like Taylor leads that group of guys. Aaron Donald now, J.J. Watt, not that long ago, we were asking, is his prime as good as LT's prime? He's in the conversation for greatest front seven player ever. And he asks for his release. And this is after the team gets rid of DeAndre Hopkins without informing Deshaun Watson. And then Andre Johnson comes out that, you know, either DeAndre Hopkins or Andre Johnson, their best offensive player in team history until maybe Deshaun Watson, right? And he's talking about the team. And now J.J. Watt's apologizing to Deshaun Watson and asks for his release. The Texans look so bad right now. They went from a franchise that you wouldn't say, hey, here's the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL. At this moment, they look like the most dysfunctional. Even if they're serious about not trading Deshaun, I think they're posturing to get a better deal, right? But if they're serious, you can orchestrate a trade right now that starts at 3 first-round picks. They're going to screw that up too? Like, the guy doesn't want to play there anymore. No one wants to play for this team.
The legacy, Max, is terrible. It seems like all of the players in their ring of honor leave and are pissed off, including people like Andre Johnson, who doesn't seem to be pissed off about anything, except he is, and I'm glad you brought it up, how much he dominated, because he was Lawrence Taylor-like. Let's not forget, they even put J.J. Watt in on offense. This guy was so good, he was catching touchdowns in the red zone, and now he's issuing a video shot vertically on his phone from his cabin saying it's been real. The Houston Texans chasing their tail right now. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Again, being released by the Texans. But, yes, that was at his request. I'm sure plenty of teams will be clamoring to get 99. Let's not forget the Texans finished 4-12. We got to know those types of talents want better than that. All right, now we're going to have fun. Quarterback scramble. 18 teams could be changing quarterbacks. So here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. Max, you're going to tell me where the quarterback should go. Kyle, you're going to tell me why he's wrong, or maybe you co-sign. So here we go. Let's start with Carson Wentz, fellas.
Molly, I'm talking about my prediction where he will go, not should. Will.
Yes.
Not should, yeah.
Okay, Will. Okay, let's get all the details out there. We ready to play? Let's roll it.
Yeah, let's play.
We start with Carson Wentz. The Eagles were expected to trade him at some point in the week, but here we are, fellas. It's Friday. There's no deal. Okay. So, Max, where will Wentz play next season?
I think Chicago, because Chicago has never gotten quarterback right, ever, in my lifetime. You know, Chicago should be the team going all out to get Deshaun Watson. That's the team that should really be going all out to get him. And they'll wind up with Carson Wentz, and Bears fans are used to it.
See, I wish I could tell Max that he's wrong. I don't want to do like Dana White and tell you that you're dead on about everything for the entire segment. I would love to scream at you. But, Max, you are accurate here. The quarterback carousel, the Chicago Bears have been riding it for 70 years. They built that carousel. They can't afford Deshaun Watson. They elevated John DeFilippo and their coaching staff, who has a history with Wentz. I think we're talking about the Carson Wentz Chicago Bears here. You cannot bring Trubisky back. You cannot trot Foles out again. Nagy and Pace, who run that show, they got about 1 year. And Carson Wentz has MVP level ceiling. Not tape right now, but ceiling. I think Carson Wentz, and it's kumbaya between the two of us right now. Let's fight about something, Molly. What's next?
All right, we'll move on then. Next up, let's go back to the Texans and all their drama. Okay. Deshaun Watson, it's not his fault. So the Texans have said they will not trade him, but obviously we know Deshaun's desire to get out of H-Town. So, Max, where will Watson play this next season?
I think it's going to be Miami. And the question will be, how much does Miami believe in Tua? And even then, a bird in the hand. You know, Deshaun Watson would be a bird in the hand. They're hoping Tua. I think Tua is undervalued right now, but they're hoping he'll turn into a franchise quarterback. Deshaun Watson is already a great quarterback in his prime. And they have not only Tua, but the number 3 overall pick in the draft. Usually a team with a 3rd overall pick stunk, but they have it through trade. So they're loaded, the Dolphins, in terms of talent. They're extremely well coached. Remember we asked at the beginning of last year or 2 years ago, did the team quit on Flores? Is this the worst team of all time? They wound up beating the Patriots last game of the season, and then this year they had the season they had. They have Tua, the number 3 pick. You like Devontae? Who do you like in college to pair with Tua? The Texans could pull off a trade, the likes of which the Cowboys once did for a running back, that could stock them not only for the future, but immediately. And I think because of that and where Deshaun would want to go, I'd love to go to a stacked team if I was Deshaun, because they don't need the number 3 pick to pair with the quarterback to already be loaded. In the warm weather, by the way, we talk about minority head coaches and people of color in front offices. Check, like it goes right down the list in Miami. What's not to like for Deshaun, and for Miami, what's not to like, with the quarterback.
Yeah, unless they decide that they love Tua, but I don't think that they do. I don't look at Brian Flores and say that's a guy with a lot of patience. That's a guy who suffers fools. That's a guy who's benching Tua in critical games for Fitzmagic. Listen, it's young. It's early in his career. He's a young guy. I don't know if Tua has it. I don't. And I mean, when you speak to him, when you watch him, he better have a huge turnaround if he's going to stay on that team. Because my answer to the question of where Deshaun Watson's going to end up, I think he's going to end up in Cabo San Lucas like Ezekiel Elliott did during training camp. I think he's on the Cabo plan. I think he's going to be fishing, maybe cliff diving. I hesitate to bring up things going off cliffs when I talk to Max. That never ends well, but maybe, because I don't think the Houston Texans are going to do that. I think they've said, all right, JJ, fine. DeAndre, it's done. We're going to put our foot down at some point. We're not trading Deshaun Watson. We are willing to go down. Yes, it goes down, not up. DEFCON 3 to 2 to 1. I think this thing's going to get ugly as hell.
Kyle.
And I think when that training camp opens, it's going to be in Mexico.
When you talk to Max about the cliff, it doesn't end well. You talk to Max about the cliff, you win 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. It ends great. It's still not over.
I hope Max predicts I fall off a cliff, right?
Yeah, I should fall off a cliff.
Let's go to Jimmy G. And by the way, I don't understand all the Jimmy G hate. He was hurt most of the season, but everybody's wrote him off. All right, so he plagued by injuries 1 year and taking the Niners to the Super Bowl. So, Max, where do you think Jimmy G will play next season?
I agree with you, Molly. Jimmy Garoppolo, it's not coincidental that, Shanahan's a genius and all this. Yeah, but with backup quarterbacks, ostensibly, who could get it done, they couldn't buy a win without Garoppolo. Since he's been there, he almost always wins. And when he's not available, they almost never win. And by the way, that includes the playoffs. Jimmy Garoppolo has some of the same characteristics as Brady. He doesn't have the same arm, but he reads defenses quickly. He gets the ball out quickly, basically accurately, if not, down the field accurately, and they win a lot. I think he's heading back to New England. I think he is going to be a cheaper alternative than a lot of these quarterbacks on the carousel. New England doesn't have a lot of money to spend. He was Belichick's pick over Brady, and they're going to need a quarterback. I think Belichick's going to grab him.
Wow, Max, that'd be fascinating, because we know we ain't grabbing Cam again. Maybe we'll have time to get to Cam here. But in order to grab him again, newly minted Hall of Famer John Lynch has to say, get out of here, Jimmy. We're done with you. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think Lynch likes Jimmy Garoppolo. I know for a fact that George Kittle loves Jimmy Garoppolo and is ready to walk into traffic for him. And I think George Kittle is their best player. I think he stays in San Francisco. I really do. It's a lot of money. Now, they may draft a quarterback because Shanahan, as we know, is a huge quarterback snob. And I say that to him as a compliment. All this stuff about Kirk Cousins from Minnesota, that's not happening. I think they stay with Jimmy with potentially drafting a quarterback. And I would love reuniting with Bill Belichick in New England to prove that maybe he can play like Brady. Maybe he's better looking than Brady. As we know, he's going to end up on the cover of a Danielle Steele novel. That is the answer to all of these. But I think he'll be playing football in San Francisco.
Yeah, Kyle, I'll say quickly that I'm not going to reveal it yet. But I had this in my mind that Garoppolo would go back to New England, that he wouldn't stay in San Francisco before a new piece of information came out a couple days ago, and I will reveal that when Molly asks the proper question, but I will wait until then. I don't want to spoil it.
All right.
Wait, I don't know what the proper question is.
Let's just keep going down the list. Let's keep
Just
going.
Got it.
Okay.
It's who's next. Okay. Sorry, I messed that up. Wasn't as smooth as the fellas. Okay, next up, Cam Newton. So that's where we go. 7-8 record with New England last season. Max, where will Cam play next season?
Well, actually, this is not the new piece of information, but I'll say this. I think
Oh
Cam
my gosh,
Newton,
what's the information? Just
Max,
tell me
what is the information?
I need to
will
know.
reveal it
Give
when the
us
time
the
is right.
information,
Patience,
Max.
patience. Uncle Max will reveal
Oh
all
my
when the time is
God,
right.
I have none.
Listen, I think the Texans are going to need a quarterback, a stopgap quarterback at the very least, someone who maybe can also sell some tickets. I think Cam learned a lot about leadership and humility in his experience in New England, and what tells me that is Belichick really supported his competitiveness and all that stuff. Cam, don't forget how it's not like, quarterback stats, it's a means to an end. The question is your team winning or losing? They won 7 games, many against excellent teams. Don't forget, Cam had COVID, and he was not the same for several weeks after that. The practice facilities were shut down. He couldn't get to know his new teammates. He was coming off catastrophic injury, and he was in a system completely different than the one he'd played in. I think Cam has some football left in him, and I think whatever deal the Texans get for Deshaun, it's possible that doesn't include a ready-to-play quarterback, and then Cam's available. Why not?
Well, why not? Because I think Cam is going to get a great opportunity next year, and I think where Cam is going to land is on television. I think Cam Newton will be on First Take screaming at you guys about a Ben Simmons mid-ranger and Zion's minutes. I saw a guy at the end of the season who could barely throw a pass. Sure, he was injured. Sure, he's been beaten up. I don't see him as a starting quarterback anywhere. 1 year with Belichick, it started great and then fell apart fast. I think Cam Newton would be electric on television, and I don't mean just the wardrobe. I think he'll be sitting right here with you guys. Molly, are you feeling it? Because we're all sitting here like Geraldo outside of Jimmy Hoffa's vault waiting for Max's tee-up that he's looking for his piece of information.
Are you saying there's nothing in it?
Got?
Listen,
No,
I would love to have Cam.
That's up to you.
All right,
I'd love to have Cam on ESPN, but I think he's still got some football left to play. And as far as Max and his piece of information, I already forgot what it's even about. So whenever it happens, it happens. Guys, let's go to the Pacific Northwest, and that would be Russell Wilson. So I talked a lot about Deshaun Watson this week, and obviously I've been talking about the fact how many hits he's taken. I didn't realize how many hits Russell Wilson has taken while he's been with Seattle. Max, he's not happy about it. Where do you think he plays next season?
I think he's going to stay put. Russell Wilson, it's curious to me because his offensive line, starting with the Max Unger for Jimmy Graham trade, fell apart. Like, Seattle got really arrogant about O-line play. They thought they could just develop anyone late in the draft, off practice squads, whatever. It did not work. And he was running for his life. And the defense back then was okay. But when I look at the offensive line in the last couple of years, they've invested more in it, both in treasure and draft picks. I think, to my eye anyway, Kyle, you will know this better than I, but it seems to me they've been playing better on the line recently. I see that come up in the run game returns. I see that, and they obviously have great receivers on that team. So I'm surprised that Russell Wilson's singling that out now when clearly the issue in Seattle is the defense. The defense, really was not good enough. I thought the trade for Jamal Adams would push them over the top, bend not break. It did not turn out that way. He was hurt a lot. But I think cooler heads will prevail in Seattle, and Russell Wilson will stay put.
I'm just trying to think of cool heads between John Schneider and Pete Carroll as they're sitting there this week listening to Russ talk about how much he gets hit too much and I need this and I need that. And then they're looking at their books and they're saying, Russ, we're paying you $35 million a year. We can't exactly bring in the first team All-Pros to put them in front of you. Give me a break. And how many of those sacks and how many of those hits do you take? Because you're standing back there burping the baby interminably and running around making highlights. It's a lot on you too, Russ. And we cannot pay you because you're making all of the money in the world. God bless you for it. You're great. You earn it. But we're going to have to deal with some bargain bottom guys in front of you, and that's all on you. Where's he going to be next year? He's going to be at home in his beautiful house with his beautiful family after the wild card round, like he is pretty much every year now. There's a real problem there where they cannot build a great team around him because the quarterback makes too much damn money, and they're not the only team.
They could draft an offensive lineman in the first round for a change and then fill out the defense with the rest of their picks. They don't have a first-round
pick. They traded it for a safety who can't cover anybody.
That's right. That's right.
It's crazy, Max.
That's right.
They do need help on defense, too. All right, we got another one here, guys. Finally on our list, it is Dakota Prescott, Dak. So Dak and the Cowboys reportedly not close on any deal. He's coming off a season-ending ankle injury. Max, where do you think Dak's going to play next season?
Well,
we do know he just followed Washington on IG, whatever that means.
That's the piece of information, Molly. Since he's followed the Washington football team on IG.
That's information?
Well, it's not my information. I said the information came out a couple days ago that started changing the way I was thinking about it. If Washington can really make a run at Dak, and when you follow a divisional rival, it means maybe where there's smoke, there's some fire, then that changes my idea about Garoppolo going to New England. Because originally, my thought was maybe Dak winds up in San Francisco. San Francisco with Dak Prescott would be impossible. You know, they're good. Dak Prescott's better than Garoppolo. If San Francisco has Dak Prescott, who is able to take, I really think the Cowboys, they're not dysfunctional, but they certainly aren't firing on all cylinders. And he had an elite offense when he was on the field with the Cowboys. What would Shanahan be able to do with him in San Francisco? And he'd have a defense. So, but now that he's followed the Washington team, I'm hedging my bets a little, Kyle.
Well, this always a flip side to that coin. He's followed Washington. Has he unfollowed Dallas? Because there's always an unfollowing. Can you tell us this, Max, in your intrepid reporting?
Yeah, well, it's not my reporting. Wait a minute. You two are making it sound like I said this is information that came out. I didn't say I had a piece of
Max,
information that came out.
Overpromised and you under-delivered with that information that I already had. But
so it is like the
Kyle.
vault. It's like Geraldo with the vault.
Poof. Live TV. We're standing there. We got minutes to cover. There ain't squat in that vault. But I think there will be a lot coming from the Jerry Jones vault to Dak Prescott. Where's Dak going to end up? He's going to end up where he always does, in the opening segments of all of our shows every day for the rest of our lives. Because I think he's going to be on the Dallas Cowboys under the franchise tag. That's where I think this is going. I'll tell you why. In a weird way, guys, I think that terrible injury might have done Dak a favor in the long run. If he sticks around and he does the 9-7 thing and they get in, they lose in the wild card round, it's the same narrative, is that, well, he's good, but I don't know if he's good enough to get us over the hump. He came in and was blistering statistically to start the season. He looked unbelievable. As Max said, he'd be great with San Fran. He gets hurt, and the whole damn thing falls apart. This idea that he just drives the Ferrari and it's the pieces around him. No. He gets hurt, and the Cowboys could barely line up under center. I think his leverage went up. I think his value went up, and yet I still don't think they're giving him a long-term deal. I think he's playing under the tag next year with a star in his helmet.
You know what's crazy about the tag is if they sign you to the tag, that whole thing is guaranteed. So, for example, he got hurt last year. He didn't play at all, and he collected his, $35 million? You know, if he does that again over those 2 years, he might come out ahead. Kirk Cousins did this, and he's not half the player that Dak is. If he winds up making $75, $80 million or whatever, it's going to be close to it in 2 years before he signs his big deal, it kind of worked out for the best for him. It's true.
Well, this is why I love coming in early and listening to the segment before us, because Max is sitting there and talking to Dana White about scared money don't make money, and that's exactly what we've got going on with Cousins, with Dak. They are first ballot Hall of Famers for money making, and I think Dak will get into it this season based on what he does with Dallas, guys. This is always fun.
Yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer for money making. That's the thing you want to be.
Darrelle Revis, season 2.
Oh, my goodness. Kyle Brandt, you're an active